Welcome to this explainer. Listen, if you've ever tried to break a bad habit, like stress eating, smoking, or just endlessly scrolling on your phone, you already know the sheer exhaustion of trying to use willpower. I mean, you grit your teeth, you tell yourself no, and yet, somehow, you still end up doing the exact thing you promised yourself you wouldn't do. It's incredibly frustrating. Well, today, we're going to explore the paradox of why breaking bad habits with sheer force is just so exhausting. But more importantly, we're going to look at a biologically grounded technique that actually works. We're going to explore how to become naturally disenchanted with our bad habits, so you can finally let them go.
Okay, let's dive into this. Our roadmap for today is pretty straightforward. First, the evolution of habits. Then, why willpower always fails. Moving from knowledge to wisdom. Looking at the neuroscience of curiosity. And finally, how to step out of the loop.
Section 1. The evolution of habits. Survival to distraction. To understand why we get so stuck, we really have to look at the evolutionary biology behind reward-based learning. See, this is the exact system that originally kept our ancestors alive through positive and negative reinforcement. Imagine our ancestors out on the savannah. Step 1, they see some food that looks good. That's the trigger. The brain instantly says, hey, calories, survival. Step 2, they eat the food. That's the behavior. In step 3, it tastes good and they feel good. There's the reward. Especially with things like sugar, our bodies send this powerful signal to our brain to remember what we ate and exactly where we found it. So we lay down this context-dependent memory. See food, eat food, feel good, repeat. It's a beautifully simple system and absolutely crucial for survival.
But over time, our incredibly creative brains adapted this loop for emotional coping. The brain says, hey, wait a minute, next time you feel bad, why don't you try eating something good so you'll feel better? We literally just swap out a physical hunger signal for an emotional one. So now step 1, the trigger is feeling sad or mad. Step 2, the behavior is eating chocolate or ice cream. And step 3, the reward is feeling better. It is the exact same learning process, just hijacked by a completely different trigger.
And here is the modern consequence of that hijacking. Maybe you see the rebel kids smoking and want to be cool, so you start smoking to feel good. Eventually, just feeling stressed out becomes the trigger. The behavior becomes smoking a cigarette, or, let's be real, for most of us today, compulsively checking our phones. The reward? A temporary distraction from the stress. We've gone from a mechanism designed for pure, basic survival to one that is driving endless distraction, obesity, and addictive behaviors. We find ourselves caught in these automatic loops, and we feel completely helpless to stop them.
Section 2. Why willpower always fails. The stress trap.
So, the crucial point is, if we know these habits are bad for us, why can't we just force ourselves to stop? Well, we have to understand cognitive control. From an evolutionary perspective, the prefrontal cortex is the youngest part of our brain. It's the part that understands on a purely intellectual level that we shouldn't smoke or that we really shouldn't eat that third cookie. It tries its absolute hardest to help us change our behavior by using cognition to intellectually restrain our urges. It's like trying to hit the brakes with your thoughts. But here is the fatal flaw with cognitive control. The prefrontal cortex is the very first part of the brain to go completely offline when we get stressed out. Think about it. You are so much more likely to yell at your spouse or your kids when you're stressed out or tired, right? Even though you know intellectually it's not helpful. When the very part of the brain we desperately need to restrain ourselves shuts down, we inevitably fall right back into our old automatic habit loops. Willpower fundamentally relies on a brain region that literally vanishes when we need it most.
Section 3. From knowledge to wisdom, breaking the spell.
So if forcing ourselves doesn't work, what actually does? Well, the biological solution to failing willpower is mindfulness and curiosity. Let me give you an example. In one lab study, researchers took people trying to quit smoking who had failed an average of 6 times using sheer willpower. Instead of forcing them to stop, the researchers told them, go ahead and smoke, but just be really, really curious about what it's like when you do. And one of those smokers had this incredible visceral realization. She realized that mindful smoking smells like stinky cheese and tastes like chemicals. Yuck. By simply paying curious attention, she stopped fighting her brain and tapped into the reward-based learning system itself.
Let's compare these two approaches side by side. Cognitive control is knowing in your head that something is bad for you. It relies on intellectual forcing, it tries to restrain behavior, and as we've seen, it fails under stress. But what that smoker experienced? That was mindful disenchantment. She moved from intellectual knowledge to visceral wisdom. She knew in her bones that smoking tasted terrible. When you see clearly what you are actually getting from a habit, the spell is broken. You become viscerally disenchanted, and from that stance, you naturally let go. You don't even have to restrain yourself anymore because you're simply less interested in doing the behavior in the first place.
Let's move to Section 4, the neuroscience of curiosity, rewiring the brain. Let's see how this builds when we look at the actual brain mechanics at play when we practice this kind of curiosity. When scientists studied the brains of experienced meditators, they found that parts of a neural network called the default mode network were heavily involved. Now, this is a network of self-referential processing. Basically, it's the part of the brain that completely fires up when we get caught up in our cravings and our reactive habit patterns. It's what's active when we're taken for a ride by our urges. And this brilliantly illustrates what's happening under the hood. Inside that network is a specific region called the posterior cingulate cortex, or PCC. When we're in a state of reactive craving, when that urge just takes over, the PCC is highly activated. But when we shift to a state of curious awareness, when we just observe the process instead of getting lost in it, the PCC actually quiets down. Curiosity acts as a direct neural switch to step us right out of the habit loop. It's a real game changer.
Finally, Section 5. Step out of the loop, your inner scientist.
Okay, so how do we actually apply this neuroscience to our daily lives when that overwhelming urge hits us? The key is to stop fighting the giant scary urge and instead look at the physical sensations making it up. When a craving hits, just turn your attention to your body. Ask yourself, what does curiosity actually feel like right now? You might notice tightness, tension, maybe some restlessness. These sensations, they just come and go. They are just bite-sized pieces of data. By observing them, you become an inner scientist eagerly awaiting the next data point, rather than someone getting absolutely clobbered by a massive craving.
Here is your simple 3-step roadmap for immediate habit interruption. Step 1, notice the urge, whether it's to eat stress food, smoke, or check your phone. Just notice it. Step 2, get curious. Dive into those physical sensations in your body. Where do you feel it? What does it feel like? And Step 3, feel the joy of letting go. Remember, curiosity naturally feels good. It is its own reward. By replacing that old fear-based reaction with the positive reward of curiosity, you are literally rewriting the loop in real time. Which brings us to a final thought I want to leave you with today. The next time you're bored, or maybe trying to distract yourself from work, and you feel that familiar itch, that urge to compulsively check your phone, what are you going to do? Will you blindly perpetuate that exhausting habit loop? Or will you tap into your inherent capacity, become that inner scientist, get curious about the sensations in your body, and simply step out of it? The choice and the wisdom to make it is entirely yours.